see. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm just being questioned as to whether we could get through this and all of the PX agenda before lunch. Eh? No, there's no.
Civic awards.
Well, there is civic awards, so yeah, so that will take some time. So, but what we'll do is we'll be prepared to carry on after one if we feel that at that stage we can get the agenda completed. Is that right?
If you're leading the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Well, that's
correct.
fine with
Yeah.
me. All right, so I'll hand over to Sam.
Sure, thanks very much. I'm obviously happy to move this. Jake McClellan and myself brought this to council. It's no surprise that the water reforms are causing a massive issue, I guess, right across the country. And, what's been pretty disappointing, I guess, is local government New Zealand's approach to some of this. They've talked about working in partnership with central government, which is fine, and I think in some respects makes sense. But I think what they've really forgotten is who their members are. Because they haven't come to us to ask for a mandate to enter this agreement. Some parts of the agreement actually make sense. And I think there are challenges in local government where we could potentially work with central government on it. But ultimately, to be in a position where they sign up to a fact where they will not actively oppose an all-in legislative approach to the reforms is contrary to the good faith agreement that we entered into with central government last year. And so I was quite shocked when we found this out. It was incredibly disappointing, and I know during lockdown we had meetings with Stuart, I think it is, the president of LGNZ, and to be honest, their answers weren't really that satisfactory. I'm still sort of bitterly disappointed in their approach, and so Jake and I had a good conversation about it, and we took some council legal advice. Because initially our view was, well, let's just bring a motion to council that withdraws us today. Because we are that frustrated and that fed up with them. But ultimately, we got to a point with Ian and Helen and the team where, under the Local Government Act, we obviously need advice on the consequences of that. So this is quite a pragmatic approach. I think it does put the ball in LGNZ's court in some respects, because we've put in there the need for it to come back at a next council meeting. But ultimately, at one that's practical once they've worked through it. But that may give them time to rescind that heads of agreement. Because I think there's been a lot of public pressure on them right around the country. So this gives them a wee bit of time. I think it records our disappointment in their approach so far, and may allow them to either go and reflect on what they have done and how they can rectify it, or equally so, dig their toes in and I guess live with the consequences of the second largest city in the country eventually pulling out. So my view would be that, I'd really hope that people back us on this. And I think stand up for the people of Christchurch, who in my view have been let down by LGNZ in signing this approach. Had we not entered into a good faith agreement with the government around these reforms and looking at the options, then I think this potentially could be different. But our view all along has been that we should maintain the ability to opt out if the reforms are not in the best interests of the city. And so for LGNZ to take away, I guess, their active opposition of that, should it occur, I think is hugely disappointing. And the fact they didn't consult us on that as well before signing it, I think is equally disappointing. So, I guess that's where it is now. The staff will go away and do the work should this be successful. But I think this should send a really strong signal to the rest of the country that actually we're standing up for our residents. And ultimately, when you pay a membership fee to a lobby group in Wellington, if they're not lobbying for you, then we have a problem. And, quite frankly, the ratepayers of Christchurch shouldn't be paying for that if they're not doing their job. So that's certainly my view. I'm sure Jake has a view on it as well, and I hope others share our sentiment that this isn't good enough, and ultimately LGNZ need to reflect on what they've done and get to a point where either they rescind this or, I guess, live or die by those consequences.
Pauline?
Yeah, look, I'm supportive of this. I think it needs
Questions or debate?
debate, isn't it? Debate? Oh, is it?
I assumed that. I thought you just moved it and gone into debate.
So I was going to debate. I don't think.
It's a debate. It's a debatable. Yeah. Pauline. No, there's no questions. It's a debate. Two colleagues have put a notice of motion in front of the council and we are debating it. It has been moved. No, it's been moved and seconded. So, Pauline.
Yeah, thank you. It is unfortunate that we're in this position. We've been put in this position because I feel that LGNZ have let us down somewhat. I would have liked to have seen us recording our disappointment that they had failed to work with their members before they'd made the decision to sign the heads of agreement. And I think, obviously, if they had, they might have had a different approach. However, I've been told it's a bit late we can't amend that at the moment, but I think the message is encapsulated in there. One of the criticisms I have with the whole Three Waters thing too is that the Minister keeps talking about consultation. She believes that something like 140 meetings in a roadshow has been really robust consultation, but my recollection of those roadshows, I think I attended maybe 3, maybe 4, was we walked into an all-day process of questions and answers and presentations, and I think without any exception, everyone in that room walked out at the end of the day more confused and with more questions than answers. So it hasn't been a robust consultation, it's been a roadshow. And I think local government New Zealand has done the same thing to us as well. They've forgotten who their members are. Government's forgotten who their members are as well, which is local government. So this is crying out for the local lens to be put over this. And, you know, we're not making a decision today to extract ourselves from local government New Zealand. We're asking for a report on what that implication would be. So I can't see any harm in supporting this, and hopefully it'll be a wake-up call how seriously we're taking the way we've been treated in this process. So I'll be supporting 1 and 2 today.
Tim.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to thank Sam and Jake for putting this forward. I think a sentiment shared around the table. I am incredibly disappointed that LGNZ went off and did a heads of agreement with the government over this. And like Pauline has said, those roadshows, I think that when I left the roadshow, many of the 4 or so we attended, there would have been a 25% shift to the negative, which was amazing. And I think actually they were quite stunned. And I remember them kind of being the first one we went to, when it started off kind of 50-50, and I think it was about 80% were actually willing to opt out there and then, which was amazing. That was from the Chatham Islands right through to everyone that was representing their communities. So I think this is a really good move forward. I am hoping that LGNZ will listen to ourselves and also the YMAC and rescind the heads of agreement with the government and start open dialogue with us rather than it seems to have a lens on it. So I'm looking forward to this and I'll certainly be supporting it.
James and then Anne.
Local Government New Zealand is paid a fee to represent their members' interests. And I think what's clear is that that's not being done adequately. And I think in that light, it's perfectly reasonable to investigate withdrawing our membership and ceasing further payments, when what we need from them right now just is not being provided. You know, Christchurch ratepayers don't pay LGNZ via their council, so elected members can get a diary and go to a conference. Now is actually the time that LGNZ needs to demonstrate their worth, and they have an opportunity to do so. So if LGNZ do anything, like literally if they do one thing at all, it needs to be for LGNZ to represent the vast majority of their members' views and interests and actively oppose the government's deeply unpopular Three Waters proposal, and certainly the potential mandation of it. There's the distinct possibility that these community assets will be stolen from residents. The theft of the local from local government is what's at stake here, and for LGNZ to potentially roll with that is a gross abdication of their responsibilities. So as far as I'm concerned, if LGNZ don't terminate their heads of agreement with the government, which essentially suggests that they'll be their lapdogs and they won't actively fight for democracy, then our membership with LGNZ is as good as redundant. Local Government New Zealand needs to decide pretty quickly if it will represent its members and stand up for them when they're needed most. If they will do that, then they have value. And if they won't do that, then they have none.
Anne.
Kia ora. So I think we're all feeling disappointed that LGNZ
in LGNZ in their apparent failure to accurately represent us, their members, views on the Three Waters reforms to the government, and this needs to be clearly communicated to them. However, I think, so I'll be supporting number 1 up here, absolutely. However, requesting a report from staff that only focuses on the consequence of the cancellation of council's membership of LGNZ and ceasing all payments is a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to evaluate the value of this membership to us, and because there are benefits to this council and all councils to maintain its membership to LGNZ, which needs to be considered. So I would have preferred that we request staff to prepare a report that identifies these benefits and to also identify actions that could improve LGNZ's representation of its members, and finally to investigate the consequences for if we choose to leave. So I'm struggling with number 2, and for those reasons, because of the wording and how it's presented to us, I will be abstaining from number 2, supporting it. So I'd like them to be put separately, please.
Thank you. Jimmy and then Andrew.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the key point, because my view, regarding to this the 2 paragraph, but if we review the paragraph 1, I thought that it's appropriate and that's reasonable our reaction, because here strongly disappointed regarding local government New Zealand over their position in 3 Waters before our behalf, signing those agreements. Then it's normal, But in the second one, I'm particularly concerned. That's why before the debate, I'd like to ask the staff, even ask our the mover in the seconders, what is the content? How deep those the information will be feedback to you? What's expectations? And also, I'd like to ask the staff how much the money or how much time you will establish this the additional the information regarding the paragraph 1. Actually, we make decision just follow, But regarding 2 is uncertainty, because I have not yet get the information. But my subjective experience, if we review those LGNZ, we need to enough benefit over the last, I'm not sure how many years, but I assume 20 years. What kind of benefit to our council, and what is the structure of this LGNZ? We can see their chairperson, all the key the committee members are all from the council. One day, our future mayor eligible to be named to become the chairperson. We can change culture. This culture, not the agency, and also we get a lot of benefit. For instance, like our attend AGM or our attend long 5, long 6 meeting. We share our idea. We share presentation. Quite a few councils you share this one. I also share in the long 5, particularly our multicultural strategy. There's a good platform, good channel for us. Also, we can receive lots of information, particularly focus on the 4 well-being, social, cultural, economic, and environment. My view, how do we get a benefit is more than we the thought at least the LGNZ cannot meet our needs. But because of paragraph 2, I have not yet get sufficient information, so I cannot make the decision in a moment. So same as N, I extension paragraph 2, but I fully support the paragraph 1. These are appropriate reaction.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. On resolution 1, I'm comfortable expressing disappointment because I genuinely am disappointed at the approach LGNZ have taken. It's led to a situation where LGNZ have taken a position which is out of step with the position that many of its members are expressing. And that comment's coming from someone that understands and appreciates a lot of the important and valuable work that LGNZ do. But on this particular issue, I'm genuinely struggling with the position that they've taken. Resolution 2 obviously is going to be a little bit more contentious, and clearly there's a debate that people want to have around the suggestion that's been put forward that Christchurch should exit LGNZ. I understand that this is a conversation that's going on in different ways across a number of councils around the country at the moment. Is not just something that we're talking about here. So it's important to note that today's resolution is to call for a report, and I look forward to knowing exactly what the consequences of cancellation of membership would be. And I look forward to the debate on that report, which is the debate that some people really want to have. And I'm hoping that the report, when it lands, is balanced and thorough and allows for that debate to be held in a really informed way so that people participating in it can be speaking to debate from a point of strength, and also that anybody observing that debate has got the information in front of them to better understand the issue. And that's the reason why I'm supporting the resolution to get the report. At this stage, nothing more, nothing less than that. The question of cancellation of membership has been raised, and that's valid, and the report and the debate on it will allow this to be decided on and put to bed for once and for all, rather than been left hanging. Now, I also hope and expect that the time between now and that debate will allow for some resolution, for some sensible and constructive discussion with LGNZ and possibly with other councils about this. And that might and probably should provoke a proactive response from LGNZ, and I think what we're doing today creates an incentive and an opportunity for that to happen. When relationships are strained and when there are concerns, communication is generally the best way to work through those issues. There's nothing about this resolution that stops that communication and discussion from occurring. And actually, you could say everything about it that encourages and incentivises that discussion to take place over the next few weeks.
Melanie?
On Three Waters reform, the government isn't listening to this council. On Three Waters reform, LGNZ isn't listening to this council either. But this council is listening to its residents, and I fully support both recommendations in the notice of motion.
Yanni?
Thank you. I would ask that the mover and the seconder simply put that we withdraw from LGNZ and cancel our membership immediately.
You can't do that.
But I understand that we can't. But it's frustrating because the answer to the really basic question is it's 130k. That's the impact. We're paying $130,000 a year to LGNZ. They're supposed to constructively promote and facilitate regular dialogue with government, parliamentarians and agencies of government on matters of national interest to local government with a view to enhancing and ensuring a long-term commitment to partnership between central and local government in New Zealand. Clearly, the Heads of Agreement does not envisage such a partnership because it basically signs us up to the potential for mandatory reform, which I think is definitely not a partnership. It's not a partnership to be forced to do something, and it is abhorrent that such a Heads of Agreement was signed. Interestingly enough, in their constitution, they give themselves, LGNZ give themselves huge powers to basically enter into any contract, make any arrangements or undertake any activity for the financial or other benefit of LGNZ, and that may have been what they saw fit in terms of the Heads of Agreement, but it certainly wasn't in the best interests of us for them to enter into that. In their constitution, it's interesting, we only need to give them a month's notice in writing, and obviously we don't get released from any of our fees, but interestingly enough, they can suspend, terminate by resolution for any specific period the membership of us for whatever reason in its discretion it thinks is fit. So it seems a bit kind of unfair that we have to spend more time and money getting a report before we can withdraw, and they could actually just terminate us by a simple resolution. But fundamentally, I think, this is totally unacceptable to be having this sort of relationship with central government, as other councillors have said. In regards to the water reforms, we have to do what's in the best interest of our city and our community, and clearly this is at odds with what LGNZ have promoted with central government, and I think it's time that we actually draw a line in the sand and say we will not support this organisation anymore. There have been a number of other concerns that have been raised over the years, which includes the high cost of the membership, the high cost of training for the benefit of paying an expensive membership. So hopefully when the report comes back, we can get some information in that regard, because it is quite ridiculous to be spending so much money on training when you're paying such a large membership fee. But if I had my way, I'd just withdraw from them today. I think this is doing so much damage in terms of the forced potential mandatory water reforms, the sooner we withdraw from LGNZ, the better off we'll be.
Sarah?
I can't vote for Resolution 2 today. It's not a good use of staff time unless we really think that leaving is something that we really want to do. And I know that from the debate, some do. LGNZ is our professional body. Do we really want to say, nope, not going to any more meetings with South Island representatives to talk about how we can work together to counterbalance Auckland?
On Thursday and Friday this week.
On Thursday and Friday this week. Sorry, we don't want the Mayor of Christchurch involved at national levels on issues that concern us. Nope, sorry, Alex, you can't chair the National Community Board's governance body, and I know that we're all booked in to talk to other councillors later this week on Thursday, and we expect them to take us seriously. No more belonging to an organisation who went to bat for us over nitrate pollution. We don't want to be part of a group of like-minded councils going into the future of local government reforms. Let's just do it alone because we know that the government will want to work with us by ourselves. I don't think so. Do we want more elected younger members? Yes. Do we want them to get support through LGNZ Young Elected Members Group? Nope. Sorry. Leaving an LGNZ would simply be throwing our toys out of the cot. Do I have a problem with the way Three Waters Reform Heads of Agreement was worded when they took a stance on the government's ability to mandate without checking with member councils first? Absolutely. And I'm happy to vote for number 1. Does it actually affect our ability to opt out in any way, shape or form? Nope. Does it impact our ability to fight any mandated reforms? Nope. A decision today to ask for more info is akin to an in-principle decision to leave LGNZ. It shows a willingness and, more than that, an intent. Earlier this year, councillors turned down the request to get a report with information that would allow us to make a decision on STV as a voting system for Christchurch, and they were very clear. They didn't like the idea of holding a referendum, and they didn't want to waste staff time working on a report when there was no intent to go ahead. It's clear from the debate that what people actually want is for LGNZ to rescind the heads of agreement. Why don't we just simply ask them to do that and save staff time? While the debate today has focused on water, it is only one of many issues facing us, and frankly we should be, as Anne says, aiming to work constructively with LGNZ to improve how they represent us on these issues. We don't like the wording agreed to by LGNZ in the heads of agreement, but it doesn't actually impact us at all. I'm not prepared to throw our toys out of the cot for some positioning opportunity. I'm happy to vote for number 1, but not for number 2. Let's please not waste any more staff time on this when we have much more pressing matters to deal with.
Anyone else? Jake?
Yeah, I'm pleased to support this motion that I've seconded, expressing our disappointment in local government New Zealand. It's clear that while LGNZ are telling us that they're not taking a view and that they're working with everyone, the truth is they're confused on this issue. And the only thing that's clear is that they're not representing this council and they're not representing the sector as a whole. They're telling everyone better to be in the tent or at the table. That's really a snake oil sales job, and the truth is that they're actually beholden to the table. And while they're simply unwilling to have those tough conversations with DIA, the truth is, in so doing, they're leading the government up the garden path. So, that's kind of my view. I'd also point to 7 candidates in the coastal by-election, by the way. It was a first past the post election.
Aaron, did you?
Yeah. I actually didn't think this day would ever come where we would even be discussing this at this council table. And I unfortunately will record my disappointment as in point 1. Number 2, I will very reluctantly support. I've been a fan of LGNZ from the start, not for the not for the weird diaries or the camp holidays away and stuff, but for the legal advice and the position they give, because in that first sentence there it says disappointment, which can be often a recurring dream in local government, and you will come up against things and ring LGNZ, because sometimes even when you think you're wrong, they'll still prove you're right. And within your own organisation, you may struggle with some of the rules and that they come up with, and LGNZ will tell you, no, you are right. Stick by your guns. That's the correct way to go. And so for me, I've actually found them really, really helpful over the years. And if anyone needs the direct dial number, I've got it in my phone. Next time you think you're going mad and you've read something the wrong way, they will see you right. So I would be sad to leave the organisation, but on this, the biggest reform in our country's history, they are just on the wrong side of the fence and have got it so wrong. I'm actually quite choked up and sad.
Mike.
Thank you. Look, I agree with Farron, apart from the way he's going to vote. I support one in the intention of one. I think actually what we're doing in two is actually a mistake. It's just jumping too far. You know, if we're really concerned about two sentences in the heads of agreement, potentially we should have actually written to LGNZ and actually asked for them to rescind it. It would be a much better step than actually just going and trying to cancel our membership. Quite frankly, to me, that is in principle decision to cancel the membership. Anyone saying that they're trying to get a report on the consequences is just, you know, talking rubbish. Quite frankly, they are legitimately trying to actually cancel the membership, which I think is a huge mistake. Aaron actually outlined some of the real value we get from being part of LGNZ, and we got to realise, you know, this reform is just one of a few. I hope LGNZ learn from this, and actually we want to be in the tent when we work on the next lot of reforms, one of them being local government. To step out of there now would be a big mistake. So I can't actually, I appreciate the notice of motion, but I can't support two.
Right. Well, I'll let you close it off, but I don't support the notice of motion. I won't be voting for either number one or number two. The reason is that in terms of the heads of agreement, the method for acting in partnership with central government is actually something local government should aspire to do. So I personally think that the concept of a heads of agreement is great. I question the government's tactic in requiring certain information to be provided on a non-disclosure agreement basis, which is spelt out at the beginning of the heads of agreement, and putting LGNZ in a position where it walks away from one element, which it can't influence anyway. What does actively oppose mean? What, they'll jump up and down? You know, like in active opposition, they have said they don't agree with mandating. They have said that they don't support it, and they themselves will express disappointment if that's the government's path. But if that's the government's path, it's something that they can do anyway. There's something in the heads of agreement. There are two things. Sufficient and evidence-based national case for change has been made out. The current approach to delivery is not capable of delivering the outcomes in an affordable and sustainable way. Might be for us. What about the rest of the country? I mean, that is the issue that the central government is looking at, is what happens to the rest of the country if all the individual component parts or different parts of it decide to go it alone. There is a specific issue identified in the heads of agreement, how local authorities can continue to influence how the new delivery system will respond to issues of importance to their communities and provide for localised solutions, such as the aspiration for chlorine-free water. Why do you think that's in there? Why do you think Local Government New Zealand have insisted on that clause going in the heads of agreement? Do you think that we've had no influence at all? I mean, we can't change the government's mind. I personally think the government's chosen the wrong model. But I think that if we have to be able to achieve what we can on a collective basis, then I've got no objection to Local Government New Zealand adopting a position that does not bind a single council. Every single council can reflect their position in their own way. That yes, they have got a seat at the table. It's not just for Three Waters. It's for RMA. It's for the future of local government. It's for all of those other issues that we will continue to rely on them to debate on our behalf. So I am not going to support the notice of motion. So Sam, close off the debate.
Thank you. I won't speak for too long, but I've actually really enjoyed that debate. I think it's been quite constructive, and I do want to acknowledge Andrew, because I think you've taken a really, really well-informed view on this, and that you're not completely sold on it, but in the end you'll look at the staff advice that comes through. To this idea that how dare we use up staff time to call for reports? Look, I mean, give me a break. I could give you a list of reports we don't need to write every week, and Yanni probably asked for half of them. But but in the end, 3/4. In the end, we should do.
Come on, be honest.
Yeah. But if you take that in context, it's a cost of a report for something like this is far less than the travel and accommodation costs that we spend on councillors going to conferences. In the end, we spend a lot of money with LGNZ for people to go to conferences, but we have been let down severely by them. We shouldn't let that go. I think we need to take a really principled stand. Like for me, in the end, I would have loved to have had it today where we could just withdraw on the day. And I do agree with you, but we did push back on the legal team and we can't do it. So let's get the advice and let's see where the LGNZ move in the meantime. They have let us down badly. And I think for people to not support this, it just doesn't make sense to me. There's a real frustration that, you're saying it's 2 lines in a heads of agreement. And I think you might have mentioned before, Sarah, about the intent of what we're trying to do. There's no different to the intent what they're trying to do. They've sidled up to government, they've signed a deal, and they're saying, well, actually, we need to work with you on other stuff, but on this one, we won't talk about it if you don't want it to. And that's what it feels like, without a mandate from its members. So I think for anyone to oppose it today, it just beggars belief. And, again, I go back to that cost of report stuff, time and time again. We'll get a list, but it still costs far less than what we spend on sending people to conferences to talk about things that never lead to an outcome. So I do hope that people lead and really support these notices of motions. Let's look at stopping the junkets for this kind of thing and lead to a really good outcome for the city.
The conference is just down the road. It's here in Christchurch. No, it's here in Christchurch on Thursday, Friday. Right. We'll have a division.
Can we separate?
Oh, we're going to separate them. Well, I'm probably the only one that's voting against one from what I can gather. So do you want to just put that one? I'll put that motion on item number 1. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. I'm alone. So I'll get you to call a division on. I'm calling a division on the second one.
The Mayor?
No.
Councillor Turner?
Yes.
Councillor Chen?
Abstention.
Councillor Chu? Yes. Councillor Coker?
Yes.
Councillor Cotter?
Yes.
Councillor Davidson?
No.
Councillor Galloway?
Abstain.
Councillor Goff?
Yes.
Councillor Johansson?
Yes.
Councillor Kewen?
Yes.
Councillor McDonald?
Yes.
Councillor Major?
Yes.
Councillor McClellan?
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett?
Yes.
Councillor Templeton?
Carl, no.
So it's 11 votes for, 3 votes against and 2 abstentions.
Oh, I think that was carried. All right. No, look, thank you. That's carried.